You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.
Hello out there in podcast land. You have reached Johnny Has the Keys, where we talk about key elements of horror and science fiction films and those little details that lift them above the average genre fare. My name is Tim, and we would like to thank any of you coming back to listen to us if you've been here before. And if you haven't, we hope you're reaching out to your friends and telling them about us. We're also very grateful that you are back if you're back, because that means you like us, which is always nice to hear. I'm here with my good friend David. David, how are you?
I am well. How are you, Tim? I'm kind of sad. It's our last one of season 3.
I know. I was kind of getting a little tongue twisted with my intro, thinking about it.
I know. But it's a good one, but it's still sad because, well, it's also could be good. We've been doing this for 3 years and people still listen. So that's kind of good too. Yeah.
And for the last, year? Well, this year we did 40. And that's the first time we've done 40 weeks. And we're getting ready to do another 40.
Mm-hmm. So, well, and I know, we both listen to podcasts occasionally, the old adage of everybody has a podcast now or whatever. And I know people do them for, every week. They have a week, or some people do 2 and 3 different podcasts a week and everything else. But what I like about ours is ours, has a little bit more prep time than I think other ones do, because we have to watch the movie. We're not just watching it simultaneously and talking through it. And we have to do research on it to find these references that we actually bring up. So there is a lot of prep that goes into it, and then a lot of prep after to make a podcast that's worthy of people, listening to. But yeah, 40 was definitely ambitious for us, but we done it. We're here. We're at the ultimate episode, as they say.
The ultimate episode it is.
I'll share that both Tim and I are nervous that this podcast is going to be 6.5 hours long, but it is what it is. It's a double feature. It's 2 huge freaking movies, but we'll see what we can do. We'll see
if we have to, we'll stick an intermission in there, and if not, we'll just go long.
We'll just go long and not give you a potty break the entire time. You have to just live with it. Yes. Turn the time stone back and go. What have you been doing since last we spoke, which was last week, actually?
That's very interesting that you should bring that up.
Is it?
I didn't have my backgrounds ready to go. I have a slight little bonus I was going to say before I go into what I did this week, or this past week, is I watched the second episode of the Tales from the Crypt second season. Yeah. And I just had to give you this little tidbit of knowledge since we did Hellraiser last week. Mm-hmm. The second episode, or second part of this episode's cast, had Keith David from The Thing, Ashley Lawrence from Hellraiser, and Josh McDermott from The Walking Dead.
Really?
They get great genre cast people. Plus, obviously, a lot of them, like Josh, are already in Atlanta working. So, and it's filmed in Atlanta. So,
well, we'll see for how long. They're very upset about all of you Georgiaites and all that politics.
Very well. Maybe. Well, I'll tell you what. That's a great segue into this then, because this is still filming here and will be through its final season, and that is The Walking Dead.
Oh.
I brought up before that we had that I had delved back into the first 2 seasons. I have now watched all of season 3 again for I think the 3rd time. I'm pretty sure. And I mentioned how much I liked season 2, even though a lot of people didn't like it when it originally aired because it was all on the farm and a little slow, a lot of character development.
So season 2 was farm, season 3 was the prison.
Season
Right?
3 is the
Okay.
beginning of the prison.
Beginning
The
of the
prison goes into about half of season 4.
Mm.
And the latter half of season 4, I remember loving, because that's when they all get separated. But this one is a lot of really strong episodes and a lot more character development. I put those 3 down as landmark episodes, just to give you a reason why I love going back and watching these. Episode 4, The Killer Within, is the episode where Lori has her baby and Herschel is not around because he got hurt. He got bit and Rick had to amputate his leg. They had trained Carol to do the operation and she is missing. So Maggie has to do it and it ends up having to be a C-section and she dies giving the birth to the child and Carl has to put his mom down. Have you seen?
Because
Ooh.
she zombs out, right?
Well,
Yeah.
he does it before it happens.
Right. Because, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, all right. That one right there was
that one. Okay. That one leads to that meme that everybody does, because later on in that episode, when they have to tell Rick, it's that shot really low from Carl's point of view with Rick leaning in going, Carl,
well, he says that a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, you see,
there's a lot of those actually.
yeah,
I'm not
that's
sure
an
if that's the
angsty
same.
episode. That one is so powerful.
It's hardcore, and there's also zombies outside the door, and Carl's like having to watch the door. Then episode 12 is an episode called Clear, which is the first time we see Lenny James again since the very first episode of the show. And he is the one that rescues Rick off the street.
Off the street, yeah.
Yeah. Rick goes back to his hometown to raid some more guns from the police station he worked at, and they're all gone. And the whole town is rigged up like a booby trap because Lenny James, as I forgot his character name. It just left me. Oh, well. That's going to drive me crazy. Anyway, he has gone nuts. His son got killed because he failed to shoot his wife, and his wife kills his son, and he goes crazy and barricades himself up with like a full munition of weapons. I mean, he's got tons of them, and he's got booby traps everywhere, and he's just writing things on the wall everywhere. I mean, he's just lost it. And this character, if I could think of his name, why can't I think of his name? Damn. Oh, well. He is the lead, on Fear the Walking Dead now. He has gone from this show ever since the first episode. And his performance in that episode was Emmy worthy. And it's a shame that he didn't get nominated. And then lastly, I won't dwell too much longer, but did you have something to say?
No.
Oh, I thought you were going to comment. Lastly, This Sorrowful Life is an episode in the season. They get to know Michonne, and it's not all friendly at first, even though she brings them the baby formula because Glenn and Maggie get kidnapped by the governor. And there's a time where Rick doesn't trust her and he agrees to turn her. Well, they bond in the Clear episode and they start to like each other because it's him, her, and Carl that find Morgan. That's his name, Morgan. And but he makes a deal with the governor to hand her over in exchange for a truce. And Daryl doesn't want to do it. Herschel doesn't want to do it. Everyone's like, you can't do that. That's not what we are. And finally, he tells Merle, who has now joined them again because the governor has kicked him out. And that's Daryl's brother, who, lost his hand in the first season.
Is that Michael Rooker?
It is.
Yeah, okay.
Henry himself says, I'll do it.
And Ronan.
Because, oh, yeah.
So there's that. Yeah.
He says, I'll do it, but I'll do it because you'll never be able to. And then Rick changes his mind, and he's already done it, and he's gone. He went without him. And on the way there, Michonne's not one to plead for her life, but she has a conversation with him about redemption. And she just looks at him and says, we can turn around and go back. You know we can.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the cogs in his brain turning, and you hate him, but you're starting to really like him. And he stops the car and lets her out, and he goes on and he hides and ambushes the governor and gets killed as a result. And the governor, even bites like 2 of his fingers off. It's brutal. And then Daryl goes to rescue him and finds that he's already turned into a zombie.
Yeah.
And it's
I mean,
really sad.
It's in a
too.
cabin or something, right? Or
it's in well, there is buildings, but there's like silos and a lot of overgrown grass. Because when Merle got there, he had led a bunch of zombies there to help him with the ambush on the governor. He like drove the car really slow.
Mm.
But, anyway, those 3 episodes, sorry, I am rambling on, but we talk a lot about Star Trek and a lot about the X-Files, but I have to say this may be my 3rd most favorite show of all time.
Well, it's definitely right up your quote alley, because it's it's zombie, your favorite creatures.
Yeah, but what am I talking about? I'm talking about the people. I'm not talking about zombies.
Correct. But
so anyway, that's what I've been doing.
But it's that oppressive fear that is very, I've said it before on the podcast, a lot of times I'll just tell Siri to play music, and she'll just, play my random library of whatever I have.
Mm-hmm.
And the other night I was driving, and ironically, it went on to the theme song of Walking Dead, that, and I remember that credit sequence is freaking scary. It's just ominous.
Well, the music is the same. They've changed the graphics to the opening on it. But
I'm sure.
I like both of them actually.
But it's very, there's always a sense of don't ever become complacent in this show, because things will change no matter what. Don't ever become comfortable.
Well, and apparently Game of Thrones went on to do the same thing.
Game of Thrones is very similar in but it wasn't, there's a zombie at the door, you could die any moment. But it's, that best friend that you've been friends with forever was just paid off by some other ruler, and he's going to stab you in the back.
Or that character that you love is going to die.
Oh, he's going to die.
Right.
Yeah. Now that is a given. That's a given. Yeah.
And I mean, it happened this weekend on Fear the Walking Dead. And I go back and forth with that show, because sometimes it's great and sometimes it is terrible. And this first season episode that was on with Fear the Walking Dead, they killed the only character I really, really like.
Oh, yeah, I read about that.
Yeah, except for Morgan. It was Garrett Dillahunt.
They had their second half of the season premiere sort of thing, and killed off the lead, who was actually been in the show since the pilot.
No.
Or
he's only been in it since the 4th season. But when they brought him and Jenna Elfman on, it's Garrett Dillahunt and Jenna Elfman.
And he's like the lead, or has been the lead.
Yeah, they went in a Western direction. He was kind of a sheriff that was really good with a gun, and you just fall in love with him. He's like a cowboy, and they killed him in the season, the second season, or what is it? The season half premiere. Yeah.
Whatever.
There's so many season premieres now.
The mid-season premiere, I think, is what they call it.
The mid-season premiere.
And like the mid-season finale. And I'm going, what? You take an intermission now? What do you mean mid-season finale? What? Yeah. Well, it's interesting you talk about killing characters because of the film we're starting with. Because it is so, I mean, death is such a huge theme in this movie. I mean, and we should just jump into it. So, because I know I'm excited. But this is, we are delving back. Have we? Yeah, we did Avengers, right? And Ultron. I thought we did Avengers.
We've not done any Marvel movies, have we?
We have not. Well, then we are doing.
No, the only superhero movie we've done is Watchmen.
Yep, you're right. So we are actually delving into the MCU for the first time, and we are doing the double feature. Our final, season 3 finale is a double feature of the MCU's first 4 phases finale. So it begins with Infinity War and ends with Endgame. Now, these were movies that were separated a year apart in their release dates. However, they were filmed at the same time. We'll start with Infinity War, which came out in 2018. It was exactly 10 years after Iron Man, after the first MCU movie, before we even knew those that acronym would actually become an acronym for those of us who were just movies and not comic books. It was directed by the Russo brothers, who basically took over the final 4 or 5 films of the MCU. I think since Winter Soldier was them. But it has an extraordinarily simplistic synopsis. I mean, basically the story is of these superpowered or comic book type hero characters from all over the galaxy try to prevent the bad guy villain from getting the Infinity Stones. That's the entire plot. The whole movie from the beginning to the end is stop him from getting the stones. And that's the simplest way to describe it.
It is a simple description. The reason there's a lot of complication is that there's a lot of storylines coming to a head in this film from other films.
Oh, yes.
I mean,
Yes.
we start with Thor and the Guardians of the Galaxy, of course. But.
And we will say that this is spoiler ridden. So if you have not seen these 2 movies, you probably want to go see them, because we're going to reveal stuff that's very important, I'm sure, about the plot and the characters in these movies, because that is the whole point of them. So there will be lots of spoilers. So you've been warned. Yes, I thought it was very interesting that they did start with Thor. I mean, this movie's first 5 minutes are like an entire movie. It's like, oh my gosh. Okay, wait, preface it and then go back, and then I want your opinion, because I've been talking. First of all, I do have a negative to begin with. I do not think this movie would work unless you had seen at least a couple of the other MCU movies. This is not a standalone movie at all.
Not really.
There's so many characters in it, and so much happens that you don't have time to catch up. You got to just go with it, and you don't have time to go, who's the green girl? Well, and what is she doing with her mind powers? I don't understand. You know what I mean?
Honestly, you're right. But if you were coming in like millions of people were to their first Marvel movie with these 2 movies, I think you could figure it out. I mean, you know who's good and who's bad, pretty much. I mean, Loki doesn't play in too long, and he's the only one that's kind of both.
Right. They don't go with deception a lot in this
Maybe
one. It is a straightforward WWE fight. You know, it's good guys versus the bad guy and his now children that we never damn knew about before, but we'll get to that.
Right. And both these films broke all kinds of box office records. So, you know, a lot of people were going to see them as their first Avenger or first Marvel movie, I would think.
Or they saw them multiple times because it is so complex. They are such well-crafted films, but specifically Infinity War, I thought set up the ending very well. But it's just, you can see, we've talked before about Kevin Feige and his vision and the fact that he's so into
his WandaVision.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, yeah. Well, his WandaVision. Literally.
Actually, that is something we have covered. I was going to say, when you said, have we done anything before? And I said, Watchmen, that's DC.
Oh, yeah.
But
so
we did do a bonus episode on WandaVision. So,
but that is a television series and not literally the
right. But it's still the MCU.
It is still the MCU. Correct. Mm-hmm. And we talked about the fact that, this was a 10-year vision. This was 10 years, 20 films in the making, 21, if you count Endgame, to tell this story arc and to connect it all together so well, from these little mid-credit sequences to a little one-off scene in one movie that suddenly resonates, and that character becomes an entire character in their own movie that you spent. It's just crazy stuff. Do you remember the first time you saw this movie? Did you watch it at the
Oh.
theater in 18?
Oh yeah, I saw both these movies in the theater in IMAX in 3D.
I saw Infinity in 3D and then watched it again the next night in regular. Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was there, and I usually wanted to go opening day, so I would go to like the first one on that morning, like at 10 or 11 in the morning when it's not as crowded. But
yeah, I think I went the weekend after, having avoided social media the entire time, to like the Monday matinee, sort of thing, to kind of, so nobody would be there or very few would be there. As far as Infinity War, Endgame, I went with a bunch of people. We all went opening night, bunch of people, and it was crazy.
yeah, I probably didn't see it opening day, but I saw it the opening weekend and just picked a showing on like a weekday early. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yep, that's what I
Thursday
did.
morning or Friday morning or something.
Right. Both movies were well, and did you like it the first time you saw it? Of course, I assume you did.
No, I hate it. Why are we covering this shit?
Piece of crap. Hate it.
That is a lie.
Yes.
No, I love both these movies. As a matter of fact, rewatching them for the first time, I had not seen either one since I had seen them in the theater.
Oh, really?
I was blown away because of bits I had forgotten and bits I was like, oh my God, I forgot how good this was. The surprises, the tone, the music. The music in both films is fantastic. I mean, everything about it. It's just, and it's like you said, it's not a WW2 whatever match. But it is a circus of all your favorite performers. I mean, there's so many people in it that you just love.
There's
and some that you don't see in like Infinity War that you're like, where are they? That kind of thing.
Oh yeah. I thought, but it is just so well crafted all the way through. This is a great look at making a good movie. The effects are all incredible. The makeup is incredible. The storytelling and pacing, you fall in love with one scene and you're there and you're in the scene. And then suddenly the next thing comes on, you go, oh, I forgot about this. Oh no, not this scene, and then it keeps going and going and going. And it's just so much. And like you said, the characters are so good. We've talked before about movies that try to shoehorn characters and they're trying to give them that scene where Uhura can say that line, and that's just her cameo for the movie. That you don't feel that in these movies.
Yeah, we know you're hailing all frequencies.
Right. You don't get the impression that characters are just there to fill up the frame or to be eye candy or whatever. And there's emotional resonance to so much of this story. I mean, like we said, the very beginning, I mean, they kill Heimdall and Loki in like the first 5 minutes. There is.
Just speaking of Walking Dead and Game of Thrones, just like axe those two immediately.
Yeah, I mean, you basically, I'm trying to remember because I watched them both, but in this rewatch, but I think, the beginning is like the remnants of Asgard and floating bodies and everything. And suddenly you're on a ship and Thor has already been beaten down and you get all these new characters you never knew, which I do think is a deficit in this movie, which is the Black Order. I've done some research.
Me too.
The Black Order. And although interesting, kind of compelling characters, they never name them except Maul.
I know their names though.
I do too.
Okay.
I'm smarter than you. I know who they are.
It's Ebony Maw. I can't remember them all. One of them's Proxima Midnight. That's the woman.
Yes. And her husband.
All their names have to do with darkness or blackness.
Well, you've got Coal Obsidian.
Exactly. Coal Obsidian. Obsidian is black as well.
Right.
And then the other one that looks
Clave,
like an elf.
Gradius Clave.
Clave something. He's the only one that has like a proper name. Yeah.
Yeah. But they're Thanos' children is what he calls
henchmen.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we assume they're, I mean, because I never read any of the Marvel comics, so I don't know any of this story, but I watched the movie the first time and thought, oh, okay, so they must be like quasi baby titans or something, because they all have some special power or something unique or a
Super
strength or
strong,
super ability. So it's his version of the Avengers,
Yeah, I have not. I mean, I did used to read Marvel when I was younger. I quit in the 80s, and most of what I've picked up on that these are based on, these movies, came out in the early 90s. So I had not read these stories either. So,
well,
but
and
I appreciate them.
I'm assuming we are not the only podcast that will cover the MCU Infinity Wars or Endgame.
3 years later.
So I'm sure there will be people out there, and you can find all these details from the guys that do read the comic books and do all that. But that opening scene, I mean, you're set up for what's going to happen, I think, for this whole movie. And that's one of the reasons why I really like the writing. Although I was trying to look up who wrote Infinity Wars, and it said it had 14 writers. So that's normally a bad sign, but it obviously didn't. That wasn't true for this one, because from that first opening scene, this is not going to be good, because the villain, who is Thanos, who really has only been kind of small in the rest of the MCU. We see like him at the end of his movie and he puts the glove on.
Or we hear mention of him or something.
Yeah, at Avengers, we see him at the very beginning of Avengers sitting in a throne saying, who's this Loki guy? Kind of thing. But he kills Heimdall. He kills Loki in front of
He doesn't kill
Thor.
Heimdall till Heimdall sends Hulk, who has been defeated, to Earth.
Well, yeah, okay, so he kills Loki. He beats the crap out of Hulk.
Right.
So much so that we never see Hulk again. And then he kills Heimdall after he sends the Hulk back to Earth.
As like a telegram. Yeah.
Well, yeah, essentially. So, good guys being good guys, if Heimdall didn't do what he did and didn't send that warning to Doctor Strange and everybody else, it would have all been over. So that was that was his good moment in the movie. But I remember watching this, and the whole audience was like, when he killed Loki, and then he goes, I don't think he's going to get resurrected this time, and all that. No resurrections this time. And you were like, what? That wasn't a fake Loki? That wasn't what? Really? Because Hiddleston had been all over the press for this, talking about it, and he's in 4.5 minutes.
Right.
And he never came back. It wasn't like, he never came back.
Well, he'll have his own show on Disney this summer.
Well, he does come back later, but what I'm
sometime
saying
this year, I can't remember when.
For this emotional resonance, he never comes back. But this was darkness, death, sacrifice. That's what this entire movie.
Yeah, but what's so great is that the scene following the scene you're talking about, with Thor getting picked up by the Guardians, is some of the funniest shit. I was laughing my ass off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They've definitely picked up on everything they got from Ragnarok and carried it in. I love.
Well, and Chris Pratt too. I mean, his comedy from the Guardians movies too.
Yes.
And Drax. I mean, Drax is one of the funniest guys in there.
Well, I have said all along that I'm not a Guardians fan. I just don't like my comedy and my science fiction thrown together unless it's Orville or something. No, I do. But for some reason, the Guardians just always.
Douglas Adams.
I'm not a big fan of the Guardians. And I really am not a fan of Thor. I didn't like any of the Thor movies until Ragnarok. And I really liked Ragnarok. Yeah. And then, but he's similar to that in this. He keeps calling Rocky Rabbit. And
hilarious.
And when he and Star-Lord Quill get into that whole I'm better than you sort of thing, and
it's when he keeps lowering his voice and stuff.
Are you lowering your voice?
Are you lowering your voice?
No. And Drax goes, yes, you are lowering your voice. To impress the angel man. What did he call him? He says he's like an angel god or something.
Something like that. I can't remember.
But yes, agreed. One of the funniest sequences is that whole thing. And they carry that all the way through. I mean, even there's that later scene where Quill and Gamora actually are telling each other they love each other. And it's an emotional moment. Drax is in the background eating the potato chips. And he's just...
He's like, I'm going so slow, you cannot see me.
You cannot see me. We can see you.
Yes, we can. But you know what? Thor is ripe for comedy. I've thought this ever since the first Avengers movie when him and Hulk are standing next to each other and Hulk goes, boom, and
yeah,
knocks him out of frame. Yeah. I was like, they need to be playing some of this up for comedy. And they
definitely.
Are. That's
and they do in both movies, but teaming him with Star-Lord first in those scenes and then teaming him with Rocket was great. Rocket and Tree.
Tree.
Later on, when they're in Wakanda, he goes, I want you to meet my friend, Tree. Yeah, and like we said, we get into a scene, and I don't want to go scene by scene because we will be here for 6 hours, but you go from that ominous opening to the funny, then you're suddenly on Earth, and now you get to see Doctor Strange. They get to meet two of the biggest stars in the movie, get to meet each other for the first time, which is Strange, Cumberbatch, and
Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. So Stark and Doctor Strange, and it does. I've said it on the podcast before. It leads to one of my favorite line sequences in the entire MCU, which is he's trying to get the Hulk to come out, and Bruce is going, give me a minute.
And like half his neck turns green and then it goes down. Yeah.
Yeah. And he makes the whole comment about performance issues and everything else. And he's going, no, just give me. And he goes, come on, man. And he goes, are you going to join? And he goes, and he pauses and he goes, you're embarrassing me in front of the wizards. It's one of my favorite lines. Because Stark had never met the wizards before. It was just like.
Well, what's so funny is there's a point later when they're on the spaceship. Iron Man and Spider-Man are on the spaceship because Ma has captured Doctor Strange. And he gets on to Peter Parker for dropping so many pop culture references, and he's worse than him.
Oh, yeah.
They both are bad.
That's when they refer to like aliens and everything else.
That's where they get the idea to blast them all out into space. But yeah. I mean, but Downey Jr.'s but Downey Jr.'s always had the humor. They've kind of brought it to Thor. And then Peter Parker was always a wisecracker in the comic book. So they kind of have to have him be that way. So. But
definitely, I think, and I've got it in my notes, I think that this movie, specifically Infinity Wars, is Thor's story, because he's at the beginning, he's at the end, he's part of the big climax.
That's cool.
He gets his saving the galaxy moment with holding literally a star,
right?
All the energy of a star flowing through him to make Stormbreaker. So I think
that's fascinating that you bring that up, because from a writer's standpoint, that I didn't really think about it being Thor's story, but it makes sense because, Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man are like the three biggies. And the next movie is clearly Iron Man and Captain America's movie.
Oh yeah. I think the second one is clearly Iron Man's, because again, it starts with him and ends with him sort of thing. And he's so pivotal to the story, because I was watching this going, okay, these writers, I mean, the Russo brothers and everybody else that put this together, the writing is just so good. The humor is character humor, so it fits. It doesn't seem like people are just trying to be quippy, and it doesn't seem like a bad MASH episode or something. You know what I mean? And but the drama and the emotion are all strong. The plot twists are good. But then on a basic level, I was going, who's the protagonist in this? Like, who's the hero? They're all heroes. So is it everybody against the villain? Is that it? Are they all the protagonist? So that kind of led me to build, no, if I had to pick one, it would not be Captain America. It would not be Tony. It would be Thor. He's the one that starts because it's right after Ragnarok. So his entire world has been destroyed.
Right. His brother's been killed. His best friend
brother's
has been killed. Or I
And
don't know.
he makes the big bad decision during the final climax.
Right.
And that leads to the end.
The second movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if we had to pick one, it would probably be his story all the way through.
Well, and this movie does not end happy, which is unusual for a franchise.
Extraordinary.
And it's great that it is his story, because his story is sad. I mean, we see what it does to him in the second movie.
And we also have that thematic vengeance in this, later on, during the battle of Titan and everything else. The big fuck up is Quill screwing up. They almost had the gauntlet, but his vengeance screwed it up, and so they have that in both places. It's got him saying, "What did you do to Gamora?" And that allows Thanos to break out of it and keep the gauntlet and essentially, get to Earth. And then later on, Thor, when Thor does it, he goes, "Should have gone for the head."
Right.
And you just go, no. Yeah. But it's just, there's so much sadness in this movie. It just keeps
there is
going.
a lot. I mean, I think that's one reason they needed the humor to balance it down. And like you said, even if a character is on here, the dialogue, I mean, even if a character, what is Doctor Strange's friend's name? I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, I know. He's
The
in your
Asian
picture
actor.
there. But yeah,
But,
the one that's protecting the
Right. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of dialogue in this film. I looked at something, it might have been IMDb, that had a breakdown of how much screen time each character has. And he probably had 2 minutes, not much at all. But what he talks about is great. And you remember it. And it was Ben and Jerry's ice cream flavors.
Ben and Jerry's ice cream. And those little throwaways that he does is so good.
Right. Yeah, they're awesome. And they're usually between him and Downey, because Downey was talking about Hulk having a flavor, and one of them didn't know that there was a Hulk flavor. Or something.
There's an Incredible Hulk flavor. Yeah. You wouldn't like it. It's the way he. Yeah, but I mean, this is the culmination of these 10 years, and all the Asgardians are dead except for Hulk. I mean, except for Thor. You find out that all of Nova Corps is dead, that Thanos destroyed that planet in order to get the stone. You end up having, by the end of it, you got the snap, which essentially half the life of the universe is snubbed out, and it's time to roll the credits. It's like, what? I have to wait a year? I have to say, my first key is I felt at the end of this movie exactly the way I felt at the end of Empire Strikes Back. I have to wait a year to see the rest of this story?
Was Seriously? It a year with Empire Strikes Back? I thought it was longer.
It was 2. It ended up being 2 years. But at the time,
Empire Strikes Back pissed me off. This movie didn't piss me off because I knew it ahead of time.
You knew that there would be another one.
Yeah, I knew that this was part 1.
Right.
And that there would be a part 2.
And I think they did that on purpose.
They
definitely let the publicity out say, yeah, don't worry, not the end.
I mean,
we're not going to end on such a downer.
We're going to kill half the cast. Bye.
Yeah. Well, and I took in my notes, the Guardian, the Russo brothers had never had anything to do with Guardians of the Galaxy. Yet those scenes with all the Guardians feel just like the other 2 movies.
I didn't look as much on the Russos, but I looked at Marcus and McFeely, who did the script, and they did primarily did the Captain America movies.
Right.
So it's like they kind of had a mesh of talent coming in from each film.
Well, but the Captain America movies are the Russo brothers, at least the best one. Winter Soldier and Civil War are both. I mean, Winter Soldier.
But like one of them worked on a Thor and one of them worked on an Iron Man too. I can't remember if it was a writer or a director, probably a writer, but
right.
So they at least had that overlap where they could bring in the balance, like you said, between characters, so they didn't seem like Uhura standing in frame or
Right.
whatever.
Just filling up the frame. Yep.
Right.
Well, and I've got in my notes too. So it's not really a totally original plot, because even Thanos' mission is the same as in Kingsman. You know, in Kingsman, Samuel Jackson is wanting to kill half the world. So it's basically what he's doing.
I can take it even to a lower degree. I was like, okay, it's a superhero movie. There's going to be fights. And even though they're large scale, you know, interplanetary, you know, invasions, it's still like 60s Batman where they had a fight every episode.
So true. Much more in this. I mean, there's not a lot of downtime in Infinity War. There's not a lot of those breath moments. You know, we talk about plotting and we watch a movie, you know, we don't like it just to be action piece, action piece, action piece. You know, if they have some character development and some nuance, it's good. But, you know, other than the scene with, like, you know, Gamora and Quill there for a little bit, and then that's it. There is no other pause in this movie. It just keeps going the whole time. There is one fight after another after another. And again, another Star Wars key, it reminded me of a Star Wars movie, because we would cut from, you know, one planet to another planet to Earth to another planet.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I was going to, and not to jump over into Endgame, but I was going to mention that as far as keys, there are a lot of films that we don't have to bring up because it's obvious. And the categories would be any Marvel movie, any time travel movie, and any space movie, because there's a lot of space in this movie too, space travel.
There's a lot of space. And, you know, and I kept trying to, because I've watched this movie probably, you know, you said you've only seen it, you know, since your
Twice.
Since the theater. I've probably seen each of these probably 6 or 7 times, just
Holy
because
cow.
I really like them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much acceptance of concept in these, and we as an audience accept it because we've seen a reference before, so we don't mind.
It's vibranium.
But yeah, or it's the quantum realm, or it's aliens from space that are conquering, you know, or whatever.
The Tesseract. It's the Tesseract.
Accept that. Sure. And somebody's going to, you know, up until Strange tells him, Tony Stark never knew anything about the Infinity Stones. He never knew anything, and he's the smartest man on earth.
Right.
And so I thought that was very interesting. There's a lot of acceptance of concept that doesn't interfere with the storytelling. It doesn't suddenly lag or stop us or go, what? It's just boom, here we are.
Well, and I think that's cool too, because it's another way to make the script cohesive, is because each character does bring their part. When they said, hey, we're going to have Tony and Strange in this scene, what can they talk about? Well, Tony's going to say, we got to beat this bad guy, and Strange is going to know why and what he's doing, you know, that kind of thing. So
yeah, I just and I really like the plotting, thinking of the overall MCU. I mean, he could have easily said, okay, 5 movies ago, he could have said at the end of each movie, he's going to get 1 stone. So we're building up to that last one where he's trying to get the last stone. That's going to be our finale movie. But instead he goes, no, we're going to put it so that he's going to get all of them in 1 movie.
Yeah. I like this better. I think the other would have been too symmetrical. It would have been like, are they all going to end the same? That's not good.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. And I did take that as a trivia, just really quickly to show my geek cred. Where are they? I put them in here somewhere. Where did I put them? In my notes is
I'm having trouble deciphering which keys are for which movie.
See, there's your issue there.
I'm telling you, it's like watching a 5 or 6 hour movie. It's not like watching 2 movies.
Oh, no, it's a long, you know, kind of like how you prefaced it in the setup, even though we didn't script that or think of that. But, you know, this is the mid-season finale and the other one is the finale, you know, kind of thing. It's like, it feels like a television season ending, because just wait till next week. You won't believe what a cliffhanger at the end, kind of thing. No, what I was taking notes on that I can't find now is I have them somewhere, but I have all of the stones. What are the 5 Infinity Stones?
I have that too somewhere.
You do?
No, maybe not. One of them's the Power Stone. That's the red one I think that he has at the beginning.
Which was also called the Ether.
Okay, Tesseract's the Space Stone, I think, and it's blue.
Yes, and it's blue.
The Time Stone is green. That's Doctor Strange. The Soul Stone is yellow. That's on Vormir. And then the Mind Stone is yellow, and it is in Vision's head.
Before that, though, it was in Loki's scepter.
I thought that was the Space Stone in the Tesseract.
No, it's the Mind Stone, because the Mind Stone not only makes Wanda and Quicksilver, her brother, the Mind Stone makes Vision.
Okay. It confuses me a little bit too, because 2 of them look yellow to me. I guess one of them must be orange.
Yes.
Okay.
One of them's orange, which was, the purple one.
The Soul Stone is yellow, and the
Soul Stone is orange. And
that's what I mean. Yeah, it's one of
yellow.
those 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Mind Stone is yellow.
And I'm sure we're getting that wrong, and somebody can correct us.
Please do.
But I even had, written down like all the odd stuff. Like one was the Eye of Agamor or whatever, Agamora, that became the Time Stone.
It did. It's Doctor Strange. I knew that term from reading comics.
Right. And the fact that this was a linking factor says so much about Marvel and telling this story of these powerful stones and what can happen if you get them all together. Because I like the fact that Thanos starts using them as he gets them. The reason that he could, take over Nova Corps and everything else is getting the Power Stone. And the reason that he can defeat Tony Stark on Titan is he throws a moon at him, but there's all this stuff that because he has the stones, and opens up a black hole and everything.
Actually, I have some of that too. I forgot that line Tony has. And I can't even remember if it's in Endgame or Infinity War when he says something about throwing a moon at me.
You threw a moon at me. Yeah. Yeah. I like the upgrades to Stark, although I think they become too convenient in both movies, but the whole nanotech where my suit can just disappear any damn time I want it to.
And it kind of bothered me a little bit too with Spider-Man, and in the second movie with Pepper, where whenever they land, their mask all of a sudden comes off, and it's so you can see the actor's face.
Oh yeah, yeah. And all the time suits.
They're doing that on purpose.
All the time suits, when they design the time suits, they're the same way. So they go and they suddenly come on, or they go and go away. And I'm like,
right.
Really? A little too convenient, but hey, I didn't mind because
it's basically speeding up a 3-hour movie.
True. But okay, so we talked a little bit about it, but haven't been there to Titan. So basically, Tony Stark meets Thanos at Titan, which I thought was a unique thing, since Tony's story is basically in Endgame. But all of them fighting and doing what they have to do there, because Tony meets the Black Order in New York, right? That's Earth.
That's the Black Order New York fight is one of my favorites with him and Strange, and when you see how strong they are. Yeah. And
he's doing the whole,
he's
whatever.
Just like levitating through the streets and just picking stuff up, and I mean, it is
throwing
just
stuff.
It blew my mind.
Yeah.
I was like,
and
they're
Hulk
never going
keeps
to beat
trying
this
to get
guy.
in on it, but can't. And Spider-Man comes into the fight and goes, "What are we doing, Mr. Stark?" And he goes, "Trying to keep a stone away from a wizard." No. He goes, "Okay."
Yeah. funny stuff. I forgot about Spider-Man coming in there too.
Yeah, because that's how he gets on the spaceship. He and Tony.
Right. I just remember Hulk getting thrown like 3 blocks away.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then we get the Titan fight.
Or no, maybe he didn't get thrown. I think Doctor Strange sent him over there. He was trying to get him out of the way or something because he couldn't change.
He makes the hole. He goes, Mr. Banner, if you're not going, Dr. Banner, if you're not going to help us, then yeah.
But all of a sudden, Iron Man's where he is because the fight's already there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Strange has evidently been reading his books and doing some magic stuff since his movie, because basically in his movie, he did a few little things, but not a lot. But in this one, I mean, he's opening portals and he's turning into 900 Doctor Stranges and he's doing all kinds of stuff.
Which is stuff he used to do in the comic too. That whole turning into like, so you couldn't tell which one was which.
Yeah, multiverses.
It's like Loki only times 1,000.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, even that action sequence is still grounded in A, some humor, B, some great emotion, and C, some great plotting. You know, on Titan, I love the fact that Quill goes, that's a great plan. Its only problem is it sucks. So let's do mine. And then, you know, what? But, and then you get the whole Strange looking at, what is it, 4,900,000 possibilities, and there's only one where they win. There's only one.
I had it. It was 400,603,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
And he actually says he couldn't tell them that, you know, what it is, because, you know, then it wouldn't happen, sort of thing. He says the basic kind of reference to time in general. But, you know, in the early scene, like you showed the picture of when they're in New York, doesn't Strange have the line where he goes, if it comes down to your life or this stone, I'm protecting this stone?
He does. But when
and
he's
yet
on
the first thing
Titan,
he does on Titan,
when he's on Titan,
stone.
you see him change his mind. I noticed that on a second viewing of the film, is that he's looking at all the possible outcomes, and then he realizes the only way to win is to give it up.
Yeah. He has to let him use time.
Right. So he changes his mind.
Right. But that's a great battle. You get to see so many of them do their own little shtick. I mean, even Mantis gets her whole sleep. He's very confused, you know, whatever she does.
Oh, do I have a picture of her? She's in the background there.
I like her. I've liked that character since the second movie. She's just so unique.
I don't think I have another picture of her. I have Gamora and Nebula, but I don't have one of her. If I do, it's from Endgame. My Endgame pictures are purple.
Okay, and I have to say, while you've got it in the picture, because for those of you who are podcasting and not YouTubing, Tim has a picture up now of the sisters of Nebula and Gamora. And I have to say, I hate Nebula. I've always hated Nebula, even though I love the actress that plays her. She's awesome. But I hate Nebula. But then again, in Endgame, I love Nebula. I hate her and changed to totally love her and like her.
Well, it's like me with Merle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back to the Walking Dead reference. Gamora. I was just thinking about that line that they have, that comedic line at the very beginning where someone says, "Where is this?" and someone says, "Where is that?" and Drax goes, "Where's Zamora?"
Yeah.
And that kind of plays into the end of the film. Where is Zamora? Because she died too, but she's going to come back, I think. Of course, I think Vision's going to come back too. So,
well, now you're just jumping like ahead too much.
Well, we see her past self. Her past self overlaps with current reality, current time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Gamora does.
I am jumping into Endgame.
Eventually come back. Yes. I mean, so we basically talked about I mean, we kind of skipped over the fact that you do get to see Vision and Wanda in this. And this was pre-WandaVision, and you get to see them actually
the picture
happen.
I have is not a good one, though.
You actually get to see them happy for a few seconds, and then they're suddenly attacked by Thanos' children. But we get the big. Then we get all the huge plots in the middle. So we get Titan, we get Thor going to make Stormbreaker.
Yeah, Thor's basic story in this is getting that weapon made.
Right, and then utilizing it because of
at the very
power.
end. Yeah.
At the same time, you get Thanos making his sacrifice and trying to, I guess, and I think they did do a good job of humanizing, but letting us sympathize a bit with Thanos in the whole Vormir story and having to realize that he has to sacrifice his own daughter.
Which is why I have Zamora up. So that's a good lead in too, is he does sacrifice her. And it's funny, she laughs at him because she thinks he's failed, but apparently he really did love her.
Correct. And I love the fact that earlier on they flash back to, when he first had baby Gamora, and gives her the dagger and all of that, and they have that whole scene where in the background his troops are like killing her entire race, and he's like, no, just look at the knife. Let's look at the knife. Don't worry. Don't look over there. Kind of thing. But even since then, you get the impression that he did care about her, and love her. So
right. And we neglected to say he picks Zamora up on some planet. I can't remember the name of it, but it's where the Collector is, because the Collector apparently has one of the stones. I can't remember which one. And
he has the orb. He has the power stone.
And she has already made Star-Lord promise that he will kill her if Thanos gets her, because she knows where the Soul Stone is. And I love that scene where Drax wants to attack Thanos for destroying his planet and his family, and he uses the Reality Stone. I forgot about the Reality Stone, and all of a sudden he just turns into pieces of himself and just collapses. And I think Mantis turns into like a slinky looking thing too,
like a ribbon.
Yeah, those are really wild effects.
Well, and the fact that plotting wise, he doesn't kill them. He lets them come back. There's some unique choices made by different characters at different times in this movie. One of those being just what you said. Several characters say, kill me. If it comes down to it, kill me. And she does. Vision says, you have to kill me. It's more important that, it's that, the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many. Needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. But several choices like that, where he could have just killed Drax and Mantis right then.
Oh yeah,
but he didn't. He kind of lets.
Well, I mean, until they piss him off by the second film, he's not really in it to kill people. He's in it to level people out by destroying half of them, and not really. That's when brutally. He just makes them vanish.
Again, that's what I think is a really cool about how they took this character as a villain. But he's not this power hungry, take over the universe guy. He wants to go be a farmer, but he wants to do it by balancing everything. And he really believes, his conviction is he's right and it will help everyone. And they may be sad for a while. He'll even be sad because, what's that great line at the end of Infinity War where he's in that weird kind of pagoda, long beach, in long water thing, and he sees baby Gamora, and she says, "What did it cost you?" And he says, "Everything." And he could have said half, but he doesn't. He says everything because he does mourn her.
Right, but that just doesn't say much for Nebula, does it? He's always treated her like shit.
Well, he hates Nebula. He's never loved Nebula, I don't think. Nebula's just always been an annoyance kind of thing.
But they're both his daughters.
True.
So,
true.
I mean, we got a weird King Lear thing going on here, if you want
to
key.
Yep, that's a huge key, I think.
Yeah.
That story and the whole thing of sacrifice, what you have to get, Wanda has to kill her lover to save the galaxy, kind of thing, and then get screwed out of that.
Right.
Well, no wonder she has her own television series. But
so we know that he takes Gamora to Vormir, where he encounters the Red Skull, which is a story that has always fascinated me. I think they need to make a movie about that. Why did he end up there?
Well, and it's interesting, because I thought he was just going to be, and I thought at other watches of this, that maybe he's deaf and he just kind of took on the appearance of Red Skull. But no, he makes reference to, I touched one once, I had it within my grasp, but I didn't, I lost it, kind of thing. So it really is Red Skull.
It is. And it's not Hugo Weaving. It was recast as, I wrote this down, Ross Marquand, who is also in The Walking Dead. He plays Aaron. And for some reason, Hugo Weaving didn't want to come back because he didn't like having to do all the makeup. So Ross was very happy to step into that role. And I don't know. I just found it fascinating that I think that there's a story in that, because basically at the end of Captain America, he just gets zapped out into space and you don't know why. And I think there needs to be something.
All right.
I think there's a story in there.
You heard it, Kevin Feige, Russo's. Let's do it. Let's get on that.
Well, and I like Red Skull. They need to bring him back.
Yeah. Why didn't Hugo Weaving
Captain America combat? Hugo would not. It said that his reluctance to return in long sessions of applying makeup.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe. He's already been defeated by,
Well, honestly, I don't know how much they paid, but he didn't have a lot of lines. And Ross Marquand is known right now, I think, more for television. So they probably got him a lot cheaper, which would have helped with the budget. So,
well, and we're up to the point now in the first movie where we actually get to the major, huge action piece climax, which takes place in Wakanda.
Yeah.
And every time I've seen this movie with other people or in groups or everything else, there's huge love for Wakanda and Black Panther. And there's a reason that movie was so popular. Yeah. It's just so cool. But again, humor. The first thing I remember when I think of that scene is her going, "This is not what I thought you meant when you said we would open up Wakanda to the world. I thought maybe a Starbucks or something."
Right.
And Suri is just such a cool character too.
Well, and the reason they go there is because they think that is it Suri, his sister?
Yes.
Has the technology and the advanced knowledge to be able to remove the Soul Stone, not the Soul Stone, the Mind Stone from Vision.
Yeah.
And so they take Vision there, and then as an overlap, that is where Captain America had left Bucky to be reprogrammed as, not a killer anymore, and into what we know as the Winter Soldier, what Black Panther calls the White Wolf.
The White Wolf.
So we have several stories interlocking there, and several heroes as well.
Yeah,
you'll notice in that picture. You notice anything weird about one of those pictures I have up behind me?
Well, there's Hulk there, and he's not there. Well,
he's not there. That was a promo
he's in the Hulk,
still.
He's in the Hulkbuster suit. Well, that particular shot is not in the movie. The one on your right shoulder is
emotional.
Because they don't run from the jungle; they run from the middle of a plain. That's where they run from. But yeah, I love trying to separate Vision from the Mind Stone so that then she can destroy the Mind Stone is the overall reason there. But it's done because in the scene before, and I'm trying to remember, but Captain America, they're thinking about what they can do, and Captain America, I think, even uses the line, "I know a guy." And then suddenly they cut and they're going to Wakanda, kind of thing.
Right. And what's interesting plot-wise, from a writing standpoint, is that the scene before this is when Thanos gets the Time Stone from Doctor Strange, because that's why everything gets screwed up once they destroy the soul stone, I keep saying soul stone, the mind stone in Wakanda, is because he can just flip time on a dime and go back.
And reset everything. I mean,
so I mean, you still got some great story structure there. They knew they had to get that time stone to him first before that happened.
Yeah, but the plotting of this scene, and I think this scene should be actually taught in film class for how to build sequences and action sequences and make them work. Because it starts out like key for me is those old medieval night movies, because it's done the same way. We see all the forces line up, and then we see the two generals come and meet in the middle. Even the old Westerns where you'd have all the cavalry over here and all the Native Americans over here, and, and they come up and they meet, and then they go back, and then it's okay, everybody run at each other kind of thing, which is what happens in this. But you have the shield of Wakanda holding them off until they just keep dumping so many of these creatures that they're even cutting themselves in half trying to get through it and stuff. And it just builds so well with the little sequences of up here, you got Shuri and Vision trying to work. Down here, you've got the ground battle. Then you've got the women battling over here. And you see, Ebony Midnight or whatever her name is, the Proxima Midnight and all the girl fight, and that's when actually, we get to see Scarlet Witch or still Wanda Maximoff do something, kind of thing. She flies down there and she ends up killing her and everything else. And then they start losing and being overrun and it doesn't work. And then suddenly lightning strikes and there's Thor and Groot and Rabbit, And the humor, who does he team Rocky with? Rocky gets to team with Winter Soldier. And they have that great scene where he goes, how much for the arm?
Right. That's awesome because he's obsessed with body appendages, like fake, what do you call them, prosthetics. And I love when Thor looks at Captain America and goes, you're copying my beard.
I like it. Looks good.
And I read that was ad-lib. That was just Hemsworth goofing off.
Yeah. It worked though. That way, and I'd forgotten about Thor. I was going, oh, okay. Yeah. All right, great. And now we get to see Stormbreaker for the first time. And
it keeps giving you that false hope. It's like, oh, it's not over. It's coming. We're going to get him. We're going to get him.
It keeps going. Even in so we get up to the last battle. Wanda realizes that Thanos is there now. He even puts Hulk in a wall using reality. And so she's got to kill Vision. She ends up killing Vision.
Right.
And it's horrible and it's awful. And you see her crying the whole time and see how powerful she is. Because, one hand, she's destroying Vision. And the other hand, she's holding Thanos off, even with the gauntlet.
Right.
And I was going, wow. And Vision dies and you're so sad. And she's on the ground and she's dying. And then he just goes and just rewinds the bracelets and rewinds. And you're going, no. Oh, it was great. I was going, oh, and
like you got to watch him die all over again.
And the way he does that with just the whole, and Vision turns gray, and he just throws him like a husk.
He plucks it out like a seed.
Oh my gosh, that was awful. That was just so awful.
Yeah.
And puts it in. Then we have Thor. We have a fight again, but he's basically throwing everybody off. Even Captain America, and he puts. Black
and everyone's
Widow
like saying, don't let him close his fist. I think,
don't let him snap.
Scene. Yeah.
And they're all jumping and they're all running. And Captain America does pretty good. I like Brolin's expression as Thanos when he grabs he can't close his fist because Captain America's holding it open. And he's like going, he's a lot stronger than I thought he would be. He was such a little earthling guy. And right when you think he's going to, then struck by lightning, and it's all the power of Thor, who I had forgotten about, and he puts Stormbringer right in his chest.
Wait, before that, who is it? Is it Captain America that makes him bleed, and he goes all that for one drop of blood?
Yeah.
Okay, it was Captain America. Okay.
Yeah, and he's holding his hand too with both hands, like one thumb, kind of thing. And Thor does the killing thing, and he goes, "I told you I'd kill you for my brother," and da da da.
Right.
And he goes, "Yeah, you should have gone for the head." And does the one thing that everybody has talked about for 2 movies should not happen.
Right.
And
Snaps his finger.
again, the thing I love about that is it's not immediate. It like happens, and we all kind of go, and we're all on the edge of our seats going, okay, what happened? And I think it's Winter Soldier's first, I think, because he goes, "Cap, I don't feel so good." And all of a sudden he turns into Voldemort, and disappears.
I
And
can't
then,
remember who's first, but all of a sudden it's like one after the other. And a
oh
lot
my
of them you don't
gosh,
expect. Like Wanda's one of them. That one I didn't expect.
Black Panther.
Black
I
Panther,
didn't expect,
because he had just
even
come off like the #1 movie.
I know. And he even
Yeah.
has the line where he goes, "This is no place to die," and grabs her and then suddenly disappears. And then, of course, we go to Titan and you get the scene you've got, which is Spider-Man. And
right. Now, I did read that some of them, I can't remember all, but Spider-Man in particular didn't do it immediately. And they explained it as it's his super high metabolism and reparative genetics kept him there longer before he faded. And they said that with some other people that happened as well. Other heroes that had strong makes disintegrated slower than the ones that went right away, that were more human.
yeah, I didn't mind that. I didn't have that
No,
as a
I didn't
problem at
either.
all.
I just think it's cool.
But I mean, people were sobbing when I saw this movie and Peter Parker went. I mean, they were just,
Bye.
"Mr. Stark, I don't want to," and gone. All but 2 of the Guardians are gone. Most of the Avengers are gone. The old Avengers are still around, so you still have some of them, but
Most
you
of
lose.
them, yeah.
You lose Falcon. You lose Winter
Almost
Soldier.
all of the Guardians are gone, except for like Rocket.
Yeah.
And
Even
Nebula,
Groot.
maybe.
Yeah, Nebula and Rocket Saber. Groot's gone.
And that's it. The rest of them are gone.
Quill's gone.
Yeah. The reason I have a picture of Nick Fury disintegrating there, even though he was at the very teaser at the end, is because it was the only picture I could get that had a good shot of it, of the disintegration. And you can see it in that shot.
Well, my key for that is it's Voldemort too. So you could essentially go to the end of the Harry Potter series, because that's exactly how Voldemort dies too. He turns into dust and little pieces of flying paper or whatever kind of thing. But yeah, you get all of them going. And then we get that nice little denouement sort of thing of Thanos obviously hurt. And, the gauntlet is smoking or old and he's burnt, but he's got his little farm and his little sunset, and he just kind of sits down, and that's where it has that denouement thing of what it cost you, everything, sort of deal. But it's like, oh my, and that's how we're left. Now we're going to go to credits. What? And I have to wait a year. I mean, it freaked me out. I was going, my God. I mean, it was sad. People were boo-hooing in the theaters when I saw it.
Not as much as they were at Endgame.
Well, true. But which is a good segue, because we did get the hint at the end. The post-credit scene is, like you said, it's we get Maria Hill dusts, and so does Nick Fury, but not
Nick
before
Fury.
he hits his beeper, and it says ascending, and then shows a symbol, which I didn't know. I didn't know what the symbol was.
It's
and I was
the symbol on her chest.
And it ends up being the symbol for Captain America. Or
It's
Captain
like a
Marvel. Star.
Yeah,
Captain Marvel. And her movie wasn't even out yet, so we didn't know that sort of thing. But 10 years in the making, and the villain wins in the end. And that's
half
pretty
the cast
ambitious.
is basically destroyed.
Yeah, that was pretty ambitious.
But it was the biggest hook. I mean, think about it from a promotional standpoint. It's like, you got them. They're coming back. Because there's no way they're going to hang and not want to see the end of this movie when it
Well, as
comes out the
cliffhangers
following year.
go, yeah, definitely an incredible cliffhanger. Great writing again, just good. I mean, I did feel semi cheated with the whole Tony and Titan and Thanos thing, because I thought he killed Tony because he
When he
stabs
stabbed
him
him with his own little metal
with
thing,
his own
I thought so too.
piece of his armor, a piece of his nanotech, and stabs him and everything. And I thought
He
he was
did.
going to die.
I did
And
too.
it didn't. And I was like,
And he used some kind of sealant and zipped himself
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
yeah. But
I
it
thought he was dead too.
yeah, that was a good twisty kind of a moment in it for me. But yeah, I thought it was going to be another Loki moment where it's like, you did not just kill him. I can't believe that, but we
Not
find
yet.
out why later, definitely. So keys.
I was going to say maybe we should wait and do keys at the end, or do you
Okay.
want to go ahead?
Sure. No, I'm good.
And just jump into since we're kind of going progressively through the films.
I mean, we still have another film to go, and we're an hour and a half in or whatever. But,
I don't remember how long we talked before we started, but yeah, we're over an hour.
Yeah. So it's up to you. Do we give everybody a break, or what do you want?
I don't know. What do you want to do?
I don't care. I can edit this part too, but I mean, because I don't know when you're leaving, because you said 7.
I just
20 minutes.
timed this out to be 7. I can go longer.
Okay. I mean, we could try and see.
Okay.
And act the second.
We're back.
So it's been a year, and we are in.
We are on the second film now.
The second film, which is Endgame, the end of the current phase, or that phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. A very ambitious story, in my opinion. This was a really more so than Infinity War. I thought Infinity War was great writing, and they really took some risks and did some cool stuff. But I really thought this was even more so in the way they did stuff, and some of it not as effective, in my opinion, but some of it even more.
I think the more part is because they had less cast members to deal with, so they could invest more in the existing ones than the ones that were not there.
Yeah, and I also think that they envisioned it, so because I did read in notes. So going back a little bit, I did read in research that the Russo brothers' original pitch to Feige and the original writing of the movies stopped at the snap. And that was the end credits. So we never knew what happened. And then this movie started with the snap and everybody disappearing.
Yeah, I read several things that were different versions of it, but I like what they went with.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it was smarter, even though you had people cussing you for a year because they want to know the ending, but coming back is, you'll get it. I think the themes are revisited here again from the first one. So you still have death, you still have sacrifice, you still have the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. You have a very emotional movie all the way through. I also think that they did really cool plotting wise with the depression, with the stages of grief, because they all represent the stages of grief. Remember when we talked about, one of my keys for this was Hill House, and how Hill House, every character was one of the stages of grief. And the characters in Endgame are at different stages of grief as well. Hawkeye, who we didn't see at all in Infinity War, is anger because he becomes Ronin and he's grieving by being angry at the world. Black Widow is definitely depressed. So is Thor. So they have depression.
Well, Thor's a little comical, but you can tell that there's some stuff in there that's a little deeper.
Right.
For sure.
The Hulk is definitely bargaining because he goes, hey, I'm going to make the best of it. You know what it did? It showed me that I can be me and I can do this and I can live together and and
Right.
yada, yada.
Right. I love Nerd Hulk. He's like my favorite.
Stark is like in denial because he's found his niche and he's like, I want to keep this. I like this, not that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry
and they kind of revisit Civil War with it too.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And, you know, basically the rest of the Guardians and the minor characters are in acceptance. You know, Rocket is out doing his patrols and doing his thing. And so is, what's her name? Not Shuri, the guard for Black Panther. You know, the head of his guard is out, you know, patrolling.
It's Danai. It's Michonne from The Walking Dead.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. So that's a casting
thing. The bald lady?
That's a casting thing you just threw me off on. I did not know that at all.
Oh, yeah. Danai, I can't pronounce her last name. Danai something. And she's the bald one that's like his lead or partner or whatever.
She's the head of his guard. She's the head of the Wakanda guard. Mm-hmm. I did not know that.
Yeah, that's her. Yeah, she's awesome. I love her.
Oh yeah, she's great in it. She goes, I thought it would be a Starbucks or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah. I did not know that though. Sorry.
Her last name starts with a G. I just can't pronounce it. Guru or something. Denai Guru or something.
Okay. Oh, I neglected to mention in the earlier when we were talking about Infinity War that I did love the fact that the whatever that tribe was from Black Panther, the Umbatu tribe or whatever, came all in mass too. And they got to do the whole Umbambe chant and all that. I love that. I thought that was really cool.
And some of them were the same actors. That big guy was from Black Panther. Yeah.
But we start off, you know, depressed. You've
basically got Tony recording a goodbye message for Pepper in outer space because he's dying.
Yeah.
Even before that,
you get Clint facing his whole family disappearing.
Correct.
And you get to see a personalized look at what happens to the.
It's also the first time we see Hawkeye. He wasn't in Infinity War.
Right. Yeah. And then you get, like you said, you get this, you know, this love letter to Pepper, basically saying goodbye because Nebula can't keep him alive.
They're running out of air.
Yeah. But then he's rescued by the Deus Ex Machina thing. He's rescued by, you know, Captain Marvel.
Carol Danvers.
And she brings him back to Earth. I love the scene just touching on, again, dialogue and the way they do it. When Cap sees Tony and you're expecting like some quip or some kind of rivalry kind of thing. And his line is like, I couldn't save the kid. And he goes, we couldn't save any of them, Tony. You know, and it's just, it just makes you so sad.
It's very Star Trek. There are parts of this that remind me of when we were doing Wrath of Khan.
Yes.
Yeah. I was like, oh,
definitely.
That's strong.
Huge key to me of how much another person has influenced your life and what happens when they're not there anymore and they're gone. And to your point, definitely Khan reference of what happens when they sacrifice themselves and you know they're doing it for you and for everybody else. That just makes it so much more powerful.
Yeah, some of that's coming up.
I mean, so we go from them landing, we find out, we get the kind of the history of what's been going on.
Who's left, basically.
Who's left and how it is. And then basically they go, well, why don't we go get this guy? And they all go, what? They go, well, you know, he's got the glove. Let's just go get him and snap again.
Well, they get the whole idea for a time machine too.
Well, this was before Time Machine. Right. This is still at the very beginning, and they're just thinking, we'll find him. And then they do that perfect Avengers kind of thing where they find Thanos on the hut and they're going to hold him down and they beat him and and realize he's destroyed the Infinity Stones. They're all gone. And that's when Thor cuts his head off. He literally cuts his head
instantly. Off. It's like, oh, wow. That was quick.
In that case, F you, buddy. Boom, done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, and in the world, the continuity world that we've been watching, that's the end of Thanos. Thanos is dead.
In that timeline, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, I got a question. It may be when Scott comes in, because Scott is the stimulus, I guess you would say, of this film, is that, he's been gone in the quantum realm from Ant-Man and the Wasp, and all of a sudden he gets spit back out into our reality.
Right.
And he goes to the Avengers.
Or whoever.
Right, the rat. And he goes to the Avengers and he's like, hey guys, I'm out here. Remember me? Mm-hmm. I was the big guy. And is it him that says something to Natasha about, I know this sounds really weird. And she just looks at him. She says, I've been getting emails from a raccoon. I can handle it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Something to that effect. I was like, that is such a great line.
Yeah. I can handle it. Well, but before that, even remember, we get the what I call in the writing, this was a gamble, I think, on their part, but we get 5 years later.
Yeah.
And you see Ant-Man come back and you get that great scene with him going to the memorial.
Right.
And him going,
it's like 9/11 all over the world.
Oh my gosh. Everywhere. Yeah. And trash piled up. I mean, the world
none of the neighborhoods are nice anymore. Everything looks like a slum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they literally lost half the people. But I told you I've listened to a bunch of different podcasts of people talking about, these shows, these movies and everything else. And one comment I read somewhere was this guy goes, I think after 5 years, I'd clean up the place. I'm sorry you're depressed, but come on, get the garbage men back to work. Let's go. Come on.
Well, yeah, I do think people pick up a little bit faster, but I guess.
Yeah, essentially we get this huge moment of the Avengers grieving. And we've never really seen that before because they always win. Every movie, the hero has won.
Right.
So we don't get that here. We get all of them in their varying roles of depression and how they are. But yeah, to your point, we get, Paul Rudd doing his Ant-Man thing of, is anybody going to eat that sandwich? Character. Yeah, let's throw the funny guy out.
What I also love is that Bruce Banner's brilliant and Tony Stark's brilliant, and Tony's like, fuck it, I'm out. So Bruce starts trying to design a time machine, and he's like got all these horrible things going wrong, and then Tony does it like instantly, and then just shows up and says, hey, I think I got it.
Yeah. And again, great character work on all of them. You've basically got Natasha holding down the fort with Okoye, that's her name.
Okoye, yes.
And Rocket and Winter Soldier. Patriot. Rhodey. And Rhodey has some of the best lines in this movie.
Yeah, he does.
People say, is he asleep looking at Thor? And he goes, no, I think he's dead. And he's just got all of these. And remember, they're going through the big fight about time because they have to do it for us in the audience because they're going to time travel. So they have to explain it all to us. And the whole point, he even says, well, why don't we just go back and find baby Thanos, and just kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And Hulk goes, okay, first of all, no, that's wrong. Second, it doesn't work that way. Time doesn't work that way. And he goes, yeah, it does. If you affect something, it changes the future. He goes, no, where did you hear that? And they go through that whole list.
That list of movies.
Basically,
future,
every
hot tub time machine.
Basically, every movie about time travel ever. Yeah. Goes, well, they're all wrong. It doesn't matter because your future becomes your past.
Right. And actually, that was foreshadowed a bit by, I can't remember Tilda Swinton's name. She's like Doctor Strange's mentor, and
she's the Grand Wizard. Yeah.
She draws it out for Hulk, or is that later? No, that
later.
is in this film. That is in this film, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but that's not until they actually go back in time
to get the stones again. Sorry, I knew I was going to get them mixed up.
You're just all over the place. She's all
right, but it is in this
place.
film, and she explains time too.
Yes, she does show the conduit of time and the fact that it goes off in different permutations. But you kind of got to it early, but it's got another one of my favorite lines in this movie, which is Ant-Man, and he goes, "So Back to the Future was just a bunch of bullshit."
Yeah, it is good.
But then they need Bruce. I mean, they need Tony, but
and Tony
he takes some convincing.
This giant time machine.
He doesn't want to. Yeah.
Well, he doesn't want to do it first. Yeah.
But then they have that great montage sequence. Well, first of all, they do the test, and Hawkeye is the one that goes back because he doesn't mind sacrificing himself, and he goes back and almost gets to touch his family again, and you feel all of that angst and grief and everything, and he gets sucked back. And then they have that great series of montages where they talk about what are the stones and where did they come from and how did they get here and how do we find them?
And where they are at what piece of time.
In what period of time. And I love Thor goes off on that big drunken thing about, and there's Jane. I love Jane. Jane is my girlfriend. And
he's like the drunk in Macbeth.
He is. He's wasted. And then you get Rocket talking down to everybody because of everything. You know, Quill said that so-and-so, you said you find the stone on Morag, and he goes, Morag's a person? He goes, no, Morag is a planet. Listen, Quill's a person. What are you talking, you know? And then they have
there's so many names. Yeah. And I brought this picture up earlier. And I didn't realize that they're a little bit further apart. The first picture is when I think Rocket and them arrive. Yes. And the second picture is when they go into space. And Cap America's never been into space. And his face is like priceless in this scene.
Yeah, and it's something we accept because we've seen Guardians of the Galaxy, we've seen Captain Marvel, we've seen all that, but he's never been in space.
No, and don't they say like, who's ever been to space? Raise your hand.
They raise their yeah. But
it's like him and Rhodey and Natasha, none of them have.
It's Natasha that brings up the big thing about at one point in time, there are 3 stones in New York City.
In New York City.
Which was great. Mm-hmm. And then they get to I think it's like, to me, the center point of the movie, but it's before we get into Act 2, so it's not in the center, but it's Captain's speech, which I love. The whole thing about, okay, we've got a plan. 3 different time zones, 4 different trips, yada, all this kind of stuff. And he builds up this big, huge speech about
it's the coach at the football game.
Yes.
It's the drill sergeant before battle. Yeah.
Right. This is the fight for our lives, and we're going to win it because we don't have any other choice. So good luck. Da, da, da. And it's the first time you hear the music. That theme, that dun, 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 and they're all in the time travel uniforms and they're all ready. And Rocket goes, he's pretty good at this.
Yeah.
and Ant-Man goes, I know, right? It's just those little quips that crack me up.
Well, it's very Marvel. I mean, the comic books were that way too. I
didn't read them, so I don't know. But and then we get the second act of the movie, which is basically stone collection. We are collecting the stones from these different time periods, and no matter how much they try, they screw up almost every single one of them. Mm-hmm. And have to, don't put it that way. They each have their challenges. So you've got, I get Nebula, who I hate, becoming Nebula that I like, because she becomes the big Deus Ex Machina again. because
she is with Rhodey. Because
yes,
she
she's
must
with
be on the
Rhodey
spaceship too. Was she
waiting
on the
for the
spaceship too?
reality stone, because that's in the orb
Mm.
that Quill gets in the very beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy. And but because she's in the same, I guess, time frame, time zone, galaxy, whatever, she starts telegraphing to the other nebula.
Yeah, something weird. It's very, very Star Wars. All of a sudden, she starts blasting a hologram back in time to Thanos.
Well, it's not back in time. It's the same time.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, that's why. Because they're both coexisting at the same time. She is
Oh,
linked to her
okay.
own self.
Yeah, it was
And
weird.
yeah, and you kind of have to go with that supposition,
Mhm.
but it becomes the big hook. It becomes the whole thing for the last half of the movie.
Right.
Because
You've got the
Thanos,
struggle between her and her evil self, her good self and her evil self.
well, and you also get Thanos, and who is still the villain of the movie, now
Mhm.
realize a new plan that he never had before,
Mhm.
which is, I'm going to go into time and I'm going to catch these guys, and with my time stone, sort of thing. So there's, but anyway, so yeah, you get Nebula is with Rhodey. Captain America.
Natasha's with Clint and Cap is with Iron Man. Natasha and Clint go to Vormir after Titan, right? They go somewhere first.
They
Anyway,
both land on the planet with Rhodey and Nebula, and then they go off to Vormir.
Right. And then you have the others in New York, and one of
And
them
the
is
Hulk
Ant-Man.
is trying to get the time stone from what's her name? Or at
Oh,
that point,
I'm
it's
sorry.
the
I
Eye of
forgot. They
Agamotto
screw it
or whatever.
up. And
Yeah.
I forgot. They screw it up, and that's why Cap and Iron Man have to go back in time.
Yeah, she's the ancient one. So, and she and Hulk have this kind of, she and Bruce Banner actually have this kind of discussion about what works. And it's not until he says, then why would Doctor Strange give it up, that she changes her mind, because she realizes if he is the chosen one, then that's the course she has to take, because
And
he
she
would have
does the
given
same thing
right.
that
And
Strange
then,
did in the first movie.
but then you get the whole Loki thing, and they screw up, and Loki ends up with the Tesseract disappearing. And that huge twist, I went, what? And Ant-Man goes, that wasn't supposed to happen, was it? And Stark goes, we screwed up. We screwed up.
Well, I think that's the entire premise of the television show that's going to come on.
Is Loki with the power of the Tesseract?
That and his escape.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, because they don't ever go back to that ever in this film.
Ever, no. We never see Loki again.
He's just gone.
Yeah.
So he's alive and he has the Tesseract.
And I say the same thing I said about the last movie. Tom Hiddleston is in like 4 minutes of this movie, and that's it.
Yeah.
And he's not in it again.
That's right. He got a series.
He got a series out of it. Yeah. But yes, to your point, then Stark comes up with the idea of, wait, there is a time stone somewhere else, and we can, I mean, the Tesseract is somewhere else, and we can go get it.
And
in
it's
another
in
time.
1970.
Yeah.
And they go back to an army base where his dad is developing something for the army. He ended up doing Captain America's shield back in the 40s or 50s? No, 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they go back, he sees, what's his love interest's name?
Oh,
Carter.
Yeah. Carter.
He sees Carter through a window. She's, I guess, in her
Mhm.
50s now. And
Yeah.
he sees his dad. But
Yep.
they go back and they end up getting that stone that Loki disappeared with in the future. It's all kinds
In a
of
different
crazy
time
shit.
zone. In a different timeline. Yes.
Right.
Well, same original timeline. They're just going off for a new offshoot sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, I love the whole scene in the elevator between Bruce and, I mean, between Stark and his father.
Mhm.
And they say so much about, because I think it's important. Again, as I said, I think Endgame is Tony's story. It's Iron Man's arc
Right.
all the way through. He starts it at the beginning on the ship and he ends it. at the end. And this is like that pivot moment where family is so important and your influence is so important, even if you're not around.
Right.
Becomes, which is.
But the Captain America started the franchise, and he ends it as well.
At the very end.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's why I think it's kind of both their film. But I wanted to mention something that I didn't do. I started to include a picture that I wanted you to see, and then I thought, you know what, I don't have enough space. But John Slattery plays Tony Stark's dad. I can't remember his name, Howard. And there is a scene when he hugs him awkwardly before they part, and he leaves, and Howard turns to his driver and says, Jarvis. And that's the butler Jarvis I was telling you about when we did the WandaVision thing. I told you he used to be a butler.
And that's why Tony, it makes sense now that's why Tony used that name for his AI.
For his AI, exactly.
Yes. That becomes Vision.
Because when I grew up with them, they had a butler. They didn't have AI.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. Now we did skip the whole
Vormir.
Rocket is with Thor. And they go back to Asgard, and he sees Jane. Yeah. He sees his mom,
and it's like the day before she's going to die or something, too.
Yeah. But the best part of that whole sequence to me is after his talk with his mom, which is again about sacrifice, and you need to be where you need to be, sort of thing. And it basically is the change in Thor. That's what motivates him from the fat drunk to no, now I've got a purpose again. And if we weren't convinced of his mom's dialogue, what really convinced it to me was they start to leave and Rocket is going, here, let's go. And all of a sudden he goes, no, wait. And he holds his hand out. And when he first held it out, I thought, what is he? And then he goes, sometimes it takes a minute. And all of a sudden his hammer comes to him. So he has Stormbreaker in one hand and the hammer in the other. And I went, yeah, this is going to be cool now. Because what's her name?
Because his
sister,
hammer got
Hela.
Destroyed, didn't it?
Hela destroyed his sword, or Mojar or Mohind, whatever is the name
Molinar.
of it. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, that thing. But now he has it back. And then we go to to me, one of the biggest emotional scenes in the movie, which is Vormir. And we already know, I mean,
they don't know, but we know.
But we knew going into it. And when it's sudden, but it didn't even occur to me when they were on the ship together, and Nebula goes, be careful. It's all on autopilot. It'll take you right to Vormir and back. And they're like going, okay, fine. Because they've never been in space before. And they get on and it's doing that stuff. And he goes, this is a lot better than Budapest, And I thought, cute line. That's cool. It never occurred to me there's only two of them going. And as soon as they got there and suddenly we're back there, I go, oh no. How are they going to get the stone with only two of them? That means one of them. And I realized it, I think like the rest of the audience did, definitely before they do. And then they flip it up on me because instead of it being who's going to go, it's no, I deserve to go. No, I deserve to go. No, and they're going to fight each other to actually kill themselves.
Right.
And
right.
then
And it really... just, I read that they did a version of Hawkeye doing it. And one of the women producers or something said, no, this is not right. This doesn't feel right at all. She is the one that doesn't have anything to lose, really. He is trying to get his family back, and it doesn't make sense for him to kill himself. It needs to be her. And Scarlett agreed. Yeah. Scarlett was all in.
Yeah.
So Natasha dies.
She's dead.
Even though she's got a movie out now.
But it's a prequel. So that's why that's why I said it was really emotional to me, because I've loved Natasha's character from the very first. And it so gets me now in the second watch. It really, I mean, this
I don't
fifth,
think I
eighth
have.
watch for me.
I don't have a picture of her.
But it
Oh, I have
really
this
hit
one.
me when they when they're that same scene when they're all around the time portal and Cap's giving a speech and everything else, and he goes, he's pretty good at that. Yeah, I know, right? And there's that pause, and she looks over at Cap, and she's got kind of that sexy kind of wink and look she gets, like she got in Civil War and she got in Winter Soldier, and she goes, see you in a minute. And their helmets go up and they all go in. And I was like, no, you won't. No, she doesn't come back.
No, and they don't have to say much, man. It's just the look on Clint's face.
Again, I love the way I was just about to say, I love the way they do that, because boom, suddenly he wakes up, he's holding it in his hand in the little pool like Thanos was. Then suddenly we're back at the time portal and they all appear, and there's that pause there, and Cap goes, Nat, and looks at him, and he doesn't say anything, and they can just tell.
Oh, they cut to Bruce after that.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, because you want them to be a couple so bad.
Well, and again, because there's grief throughout this movie. If the first one was about death, this one's about grieving. And they show that scene with all of them there by the lake, and Hulk throws the bench and they're all pissed off and everything else. And it's basically they have to accept it and say, we're going to go on. We're not going to stop. And that's just so, that hurt. That was just,
It did.
Really hurt.
It did.
But so
I thought, I just, something just occurred to me. I mean, we can still do keys when we get to the end, but if we do run a little long, a lot of the keys that we have, we've already mentioned, or we've talked about, or deal with space, superheroes or time travel. We can always just, since this is a special episode and we are covering two big films, we can always just list the keys in the show notes. We don't have to go through all of them too.
Sure. I mean, basically we're now in Act 3, which is Hulk is the only one that they think is strong enough to use the gauntlet,
wear the
because
glove.
they now have the glove and the gauntlet and all the stones. So they put them all together. He snaps. We get birds outside. Hawkeye gets a phone call from his wife. And we think, oh my gosh. But at the same time, Sneaky Nebula, because we missed the fact that Sneaky Nebula is now aboard. She's not the same Nebula. This is the mean Nebula. And she turns on the time machine and brings Thanos and his ship and all of the the black children, because none of them have died in this time frame,
They're back
to their present. So they come from the past into this present with,
and I'm telling you,
everything
that when they start laying into the Avengers headquarters. No, actually, it may be Tony's house. Where I can't remember.
No, it's the Avengers headquarters.
The Avengers headquarters. I mean, there is no way they would have all lived. I was like, Clint would be dead. Anybody human would have been dead because they blow the hell out of that place.
Well, I struggle a lot with Clint and Natasha, even though I like both Hawkeye and Black Widow, being able to keep up with these people, because they're not super soldiers. Rhodey at least has a suit. And Winter Soldier at least has the genetics.
Yeah, but Rocket would have been dead too, man. That would have killed Rocket. Yeah,
they would have all all the human mortals would, but Clint outruns the freaking Chitauri dogs or whatever and gets away. I'm going, what? There is no way he could do that. But okay, so he does. Yeah. And this is Thanos. And I thought Brolin did a really good job, because this is Thanos without all the knowledge of the other movie. So this is Thanos back when he was with Nebula and with Gamora looking for the stones.
And they were all like bad guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a bad guy, even down to takes his helmet off and sits down and says, I'm going to let them come to me, because they will. You know, he's got that defeatist sort of, I'm going to win. I always do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way it is, you know, kind of villainous trait to him. But then the movie, to me, this last act does have some fall apart a little bit in places.
Oh yeah,
because it becomes battle after battle after battle.
It is a lot of fighting. I'll give you that.
Some of it is unbelievable to me. Just like you said, I do not think Clint and the rest of them would have survived the initial assault. And you've got Iron Man, Tony Stark, and Thor all at the same time. The three most powerful, other than Hulk, Avengers fighting Thanos, and they all lose. And I went, how strong is this dude?
I was wondering how strong that blade is that it can slice up Captain America's shield. That kind of bothered me too.
And then they bring in Deus Ex Machina again of Captain Marvel, who literally flies through the ship.
That was awesome. I love that.
It was neat, but I was going, really? But anyway, sorry, that's kind of jumping ahead, because what happens is they get the crap kicked out of them.
They do literally get beaten.
And the last one really standing is Captain America.
Right.
And he is, the shield is broken. But he's not going to give up. You know, it's like he says, I could do this all day. And he's going to try it again. And all of a sudden you hear that great line of, you hear a little bit of crap or something, but then you hear Falcon say, on your left, which was his introduction in Winter Soldier. Because Captain met him by racing around the Potomac and beating him every time, going on your left, running around. And all of a sudden the portal opens, and first of all, you see Black Panther, but then he flies in and everybody in the theater screams.
I know. It's amazing, because all of a sudden all these portals start opening from Doctor Strange, and every hero that died is back. And you're like, it's like collective orgasm.
Literally all of them. It was amazing. Everybody in the theater is hooting and hollering. It's amazing. It's paced
and
really
they don't,
well.
there's a cherry. There's still a cherry on top of all this to go.
And we had forgotten that he really did snap. He made it work. But just like there was that pause before they all disappeared, there's this pause and fight before they all come back, you know. And I did kind of skip over the part where Captain America actually gets the hammer for the first time and picks it up, and you cut to that shot of Thor going, I knew it.
I knew it.
And later on,
when
they're in
the second, he didn't do it originally because he didn't want to hurt Thor's feelings.
Yeah. Later on, they're in that second fight, and Thor ends up with it, his hammer, and he goes, no, you take the little one, and they trade.
Right.
Anyway.
But no, there's still a cherry on top of this with all of the portals opening. All of the Avengers are there. All the heroes are back and ready to kill. And then Cap says the line that is what we know from the comic books. And he's never said it in any of the movies. And he says, Avengers, assemble. And they
As a matter of fact, I think 2 of the movies end with him going, Avengers, and we cut. You know, he never finishes it, but this one he does.
Yeah, that's the first time I cried. It wasn't Natasha's death. It was when he said Avengers Assemble.
Well, I cried with Natasha. I cried with Avengers Assemble.
And then I cried at the very end.
Well, you know, Captain Marvel appears. She does her thing. She gets the gauntlet. I love Brie Larson and the guy that plays Peter in that scene where he's holding the gauntlet and she's just floating in front of him. He goes, hi. And she goes, hello, Peter Parker. You have something for me? Yeah. And she takes it, you know, they each get their moment because they're trying to get to the time machine.
It's like a relay race.
Yeah.
They're passing the baton. Black Panther has it at one point too, before Peter.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So each of them get it. There is the Women of Marvel moment, which I know everybody loves.
I think I have that. Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, it doesn't work for me. Why? because there is no Black Widow in it, and
Aw.
that bugs me.
No,
But-
but there's Scarlet Witch.
But everybody liked it. Everybody liked it. And then, yeah, because you get Scarlet Witch raining fire down
She
on
is
him.
pissed.
And he goes, I don't even know who you are. And she goes, you will. You know, and all that, and just, and that's why he has to call the ship to rain fire down to distract her.
Mhm.
And that's the only way he lived, really, because she would have killed him easily.
Mhm.
You took away everything I loved, I think is what she said.
Mhm.
Because meaning her brother and
That's why he
Maybe.
says, I don't even know you.
I don't even know who you are. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Then-
Doctor Strange, and then put up those magical umbrellas.
The magic umbrellas. And Doctor Strange is keeping the water. And Ant-Man is like going, is anybody else seeing this? Man, what is it's great lines, great dialogue.
Right.
And it finally comes down to our climax, which is set up 11 years ago on this release date, which was facing off against Thanos.
Your audio went weird for a second.
Is it back?
Yeah, it's back. Okay. Sorry. It
Oh,
went
wait, hold
treble-y.
on. I've got to. Well, that's because it switched on my things. I've got to reopen my Audacity too because it stopped for some reason.
Oops.
But I'll get to that. Where was I? What was I?
We
Oh,
were
the
talking
climax.
about getting toward the end. Yeah.
Yeah, because Tony fights Thanos for the glove.
Mhm.
And they're fighting back and forth, and he's using all his nanotech, and they're fighting, and and he gets thrown away, and Thanos is there, and then you see that Tony has Thanos has the gauntlet, and he snaps,
Mhm.
but it doesn't work, and
Right.
he turns it around, and he has no Infinity Stones, and that's when Tony holds up his hand, and he has all of them
Right.
knitted into his nano armor, and Tony Stark makes the ultimate sacrifice and snaps, which does destroy Thanos, and we get to see him turn into Voldemort and everything else, and all of his minions and everything else.
They all
but
just turn
it's too much
into
power
ashes.
for,
Mhm.
and it's too much power for a mortal to take. And God, do they handle that with the two characters? Well, everybody's reaction is so painful, but Peter's reaction, Pepper's reaction, and the fact that all of and I think I cannot remember. I think this is in the extended, but they didn't do it in the release. But after Tony dies, all of the Avengers kneel. And it just tears me up talking about it.
I don't remember seeing that at all.
Yeah, it's in the
And I
the
watched
extended
3
version.
hour something version on Disney. I don't remember seeing that.
Well, and it might be a cutscene too, because there's also a cutscene from the very beginning of this movie of Captain Marvel actually showing up on Earth and them saying we can't find Tony Stark before she goes to get him.
there is some stuff that was filmed and cut. I read a lot about that.
So it may be a cutscene, but it got me
must
because
have been a
all the
cutscene.
Avengers kneeling, including Valkyrie and all of the warriors, essentially Shuri and Okoye, all of them. And then we get this funeral for Tony, which is it's just
funeral
one shot,
kills-
but oh my
I mean,
God.
it starts with the hologram message to his daughter. And it's like, okay, am I going to make it through this? And then you have the actual funeral where they do that one long shot. And I don't know if you read about that, but they said it was like the most challenging shot in the history of Hollywood because of scheduling. Because everybody is in that shot. Everybody that's
and it's
in
one
any
tracking
Marvel
shot.
movie.
Yep.
Just about any hero, even one of the kids from one of the Iron Man movies, Iron Man 3 is in it. And Brie Larson
Except for Black Widow. Black Widow is not in it.
No, Black Widow's not there, but neither is Vision. And neither is Gamora.
Well, that's true too. Gamora's not there.
No.
Wait,
Where's Gamora? That's what.
aren't the
Drax
Guardians
asked.
there?
The Guardians are there.
Guardians are-
Gamora is not. That's why Drax's line is so funny from Infinity War. Where's Gamora? When he,
But she is
where's
there.
this? Where's that? Where's Gamora? And then later,
But she is there. Remember, because she kicks in the fight. She kicks Quill because it's the old Gamora. It's the Gamora from the past, and she's there. And she kicks Quill twice. Remember, because he falls down. He goes, "The first time you missed, but the second time you got them both."
Correct, but she's not at the funeral.
Okay,
I don't think Nebula is either. I think
maybe
it's
the
just
Guardians aren't.
No,
maybe it's
they
just the
are.
humans.
Quill,
Maybe it's
and
just the
Drax,
mortals.
and Rocket and Groot are there. I don't think the women are there. Oh, Mantis
Okay.
is there too. Mantis is there too. Just
Okay.
not the sisters.
Interesting. But yeah, we skipped over the fact that right before he snaps, he does say, "I am Iron Man."
I am.
Yeah.
Because he says, I am inevitable.
Yes.
And he says, I am
I
Iron Man.
am Iron Man. Boom.
In the immortal words of Ozzy Osbourne.
Yep. And I do like, again, complimenting the writing and the direction. I do like that then they go to his voiceover. And we're basically, as we're watching Tony's eulogy, we're hearing Tony's monologue.
It's awesome.
And it's to his daughter, who he loves 3,000.
Mhm.
And that got to me too.
Mhm. That whole scene from start to end.
Right.
And it's all at the cabin. Even when
Correct.
Scarlet Witch is talking to, who is it she's talking to?
Hawkeye.
Yeah, it's Clint.
Yes.
And he says, I just hope that she knows. And she looks at him and says, she does. They both do.
Right, because they're the ones that, yeah, and that got me in again. I was crying because they were the ones that both lost the ones they cared about. You know,
Right.
Clint got his family back, yay, but he lost Natasha.
Right.
You know, and then we have that weird kind of sort of denouement, and again a unique writing thing for them, I think.
It was set up with Tilda Swinton. They have to get the stones back to the proper places.
Well, that's correct. And Captain America is going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to take him back, which is fine. And we expect him to come back. But when he comes back, he's not he is the same Steve Rogers, but he's like in his 80s.
He just remembers the date and goes there at that time.
Well, and we also realize that he lived out his whole life there.
Right.
And then came back.
Mm-hmm.
And he decided, yeah, I deserved to live a life with her, with Carter, and with the woman he loved, and all of that. And he tells all that about Peggy Carter. He tells all that to Falcon because he ends up giving him the shield. He ends up passing his shield to
Mackie.
Falcon. Yeah,
to
Mackie.
Yeah, whatever his character's name is.
Mac Wilson, I think. Yeah. And
Anthony Mackie plays the part. I can't remember his name.
I know it's Wilson. I just don't remember his first name.
I read something interesting that you would like to know, maybe if you haven't read it, and it was the directors or the writers or a combination of the two decided when they were making this film that it was about Iron Man and Captain America. And they said that they realized the genesis of the film was that for their life to have meaning, Tony had to die and Captain America had to live. They had to have a life. And Tony's life was meaningless until not meaningless, but you know what I mean? It gave more meaning, his dying. And then Captain America, of course, never really belonged anywhere. And now he does.
If you think about the arc through Captain America all the way through, even down to Civil War, fighting with his best friend, but you know, like him,
great.
Ultron even says, "Where would you be without a war, Captain? You've got to have a fight all the time," kind of thing. And so he has no place, and he's always regretted the fact that he didn't have that dance,
right?
You know, and that's, oh my God.
And to end that movie back in time with the dance and the music. I was like, this is brilliant. I mean, because it is not how you expect a superhero movie to end. It is,
No.
however, how I would expect a comic book to end. They would do that in a comic
with
book.
that final big full page panel of them dancing in the center kind of thing. Yeah, I could see that. And I also like the fact that, again, for both movies, it's a choice that they end them on things that we don't expect, scenes that we do not expect. We don't expect the villain to win at the end and literally wipe out half of humanity, or half of the galaxy, really. And we don't expect it to end back in time with Captain America actually happy with Peggy. You know, that was, it's just, I don't see how anybody could not like these movies. Anybody who did not rate these movies 1,000, if this is not in the 1,001 movies about to watch, it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you completely run the gamut of emotions in these movies.
Oh my gosh.
Especially the ending of this one. This one just rakes you over the coals. It's just like, it's Wrath of Khan all over again. I'm just like weeping. I'm like, what the fuck, man?
I'm a sucker for a good death scene anyway, especially if it's emotive. And the way Downey Jr. handles that, and the way he's trying to hold on enough to at least talk to people and be cognizant of them. But, you know, it's just so brilliant.
I know. And
God,
Rhodey and Peter Parker are there talking to him. And I'm like, y'all need to back off and let Pepper up there.
Yeah.
Get out of the way.
Yeah, get out of the way. Yeah, it's just because the last time he talked to Pepper, even before the snap, the last time he talked to Pepper in real life was when he was on he was on the phone with her saying he'll be late for the date because and she goes because he was kind of not on the planet. You know,
right,
kind of in space. It's just yeah, I'm feeling that because we've just gone through that whole 4-hour 5-hour experience of both of these movies
2 hours. Yeah,
you know, and well, we said it would be long,
that's fine.
folks.
I don't mind that we ran long. I'm just glad that we got it all in because I didn't realize. I mean, I thought both movies were a little over 2 hours, and then when I looked, I was like, I didn't realize Endgame was like 3.5 hours.
Oh yeah, it's long.
I mean, well, the credit sequences on both are like 15 minutes, so that's a long credit sequence.
But it's also, you know, each one of them have a 3-act story arc too. You know, the Endgame we talked about was basically the effects of the snap are the whole first act, even including killing Thanos and going 5 years into the future and all that, all the grieving. And then act 2 is the time trips, trying to get the stones and get them all back and the sacrifices everybody has to make. And then act 3 is the fight on Earth, you know? And so it works as a 3-act sort of story. It's just, it's so emotional. I mean, I'm still remembering lines like when Natasha finally finds Ronan / Clint, Hawkeye, and he's killed the Yakuzas and everything. And she says, we think we have a way. And he says, don't. And she says, don't what? And he goes, don't give me hope. And you just, whoa, you're just going, whoa, he's changed a lot from the guy who was, here, touch my side, honey, and here's my little secret family that I never tell anybody about, you know?
Right. Briefly, if we want to go over some of our regular things, as far as awards, this movie was nominated for an Academy Award and actually both movies were nominated for an Academy Award and a BAFTA Award in visual effects. Neither one. I'm not really sure what did. I should look that up. But what I will say is that the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films, our friend that does the Saturn Awards, gave Josh Brolin Best Supporting Actor for Infinity War, and Endgame got Best Comic Book to Film, Best Actor, Downey Jr., Best Production Design, Best Makeup, Best Editing, Best Special Effects, all of those. Won all of those. And then it was nominated for Best Actor with Chris Evans and Supporting with Jeremy Renner. So I thought that was interesting that both the Academy and BAFTA, the British equivalent, only nominated it for effects, both of them, and didn't win either.
I can't imagine that. Why? The effects in these movies are unparalleled. I mean, they are some of the best ever. I would hold this against Avatar, any of those other special effects driven films ever.
I don't know what was going on. I think it's a lot like, well, it's, I mean, horror has had this, black sheep effect with awards for a long time. And I guess sci-fi does to an extent as well. Horror and sci-fi are starting to get noticed, but superheroes are still superheroes are the new horror sci-fi of awards.
Yeah.
It's like, we're not going to give a superhero award, a film an award if we're, prestigious or whatever. Fuck them.
That's crazy. That's just, it's literally crazy to me.
I think so too. And
I'm going to have to look up and see what won.
Right. Both films are on the 1001 You Must See Before You Die list by Steven Schneider, which I knew they would be. Mm-hmm. And then I may have some keys, or we can do some keys if you want, or we don't have to. It's up to you.
And we can pop them in the show notes. I mean, we appreciate everybody listening to us for this long. I mean, we are extraordinarily enthusiastic about these movies because to me, they're almost literally perfect. There's very little that I would change in these films. There's very little that I could say. Like I said, my nitpicks about, not really certain where did Captain Marvel come from.
There's a few logic problems, but the movie overall is so good it carries you through them.
Of course.
Just don't worry about them.
Even past huge hurdles of stuff like, the different things that come up and you're going, how do you even know about Infinity Stones? Who cares? I don't care. We're going with it. I'm just buying into it. Somebody said Infinity Stones, I'm going. Sort of thing. And we deal with it. And it is this, to see the compassion and the empathy of Tony Stark's character at the end of this movie compared to that arrogant, alcoholic, playboy arms dealer in the first movie 11 years earlier is just crazy. And awesome, and says a lot about Downey Jr. as well as the rest of the people involved in this.
Yeah, I totally agree. I couldn't think of two better movies to go out with on our third season.
and we've done WandaVision as a special. If you guys want to listen to that too, and I'm sure we'll approach the MCU as it continues into phase 5, 6, 7, and on. But we want to thank all of you guys for listening to us for 3 years. If you have, and if you haven't, why haven't you? Go back now. You've got plenty of time. You got a little hiatus before we come back for 4, and you can listen to all of our past podcasts or YouTubes, and pick a movie that you like.
We're coming back on August 16th.
Put it on your calendars right now, August 16th.
You better, because we've got several big surprises for you.
Yeah, it's going to be a great season 4. And Tim, look, I look forward to doing it with you because it's always fun.
Yeah, it's a blast into outer space.
And into descending into caves with zombies.
And into that quantum realm. I remembered what it was.
It is the quantum realm. You should know these things.
Realm.
Yes.
All right. Well, I will see you next season, Mr. Horton.
I'll see you next season, Mr. Smith.
All right. Peace out.
You can't start the car. Johnny has the key.